Hey everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. I hope you're all doing great today. I am doing much better than last week. So we're going to turn up the black and gold pen that we made, the blanks last week. So let's head over to the overhead cam. Here's what we got going on. I'm going to turn, so I have a kit that, I really like this kit. Unfortunately, Turner's doesn't have this. I should tell Chad to get this kit. It's called a Junior... What is it called? I think it's called Junior Anthony. I thought this would be kind of cool because it's got some really cool gold stuff in it. It's going to be a fountain pen style. But I kind of like the gold. It's like a whatever, titanium or I don't know, gunmetal, something. But it's got these gold little things on it. And I thought that would probably go pretty good with this blank. Kind of a neat pattern. I don't know if that's going to focus or not. Focus. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom it in. If I zoom in, maybe it'll think about being nice to me. Just doesn't want to do it. Maybe if I put it like that. Oh, come on. Just focus. I don't know if you can see it. It's got a cool little finial and all that kind of good stuff. Little circle things going on in it. And even on the bottom part. So anyway, that's going to be the kit that we're going to put this on. And we got some gold and black blanks. And again, these are pretty simple. I mean, there's nothing, obviously, I didn't do anything special. We just put some black and we put some gold. And we got some cool looking blanks. And I think it's going to really, like I said, it's funny because sometimes I just don't think about what I'm doing. You know, I don't know, there's so many different colors that you can put together. And I haven't made black and gold. I can't remember the last time I made one. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to do this time and have some fun with it. So we got a couple of quick announcements. Number one, I'm going to move these out of the way so we can have space. So these black and golds are going to go into the Pen Blank Club boxes this month. Like I said, simple yet elegant. Simple yet elegant. I like that. Let's see here. I'm going to put these little bits, bobbles and things together on the pen kit so I get it out of the way while I'm sharing some other little doohickeys things going on here. So I dropped a brand new blank this week. This is a team color blank, and Turner's Warehouse carried this one before, but it was a different color combination, and I absolutely love this color combination. So it's a Diamondbacks blank. So for the Arizona Diamondbacks baseball team, red and black, and then this time, so in the previous one, they have a couple, they've got like 50,000 different uniforms. And in the previous blank, I went with a tan color. Do I have that one? And I tried looking at that on this time around as well. That's what I was gonna make, but oh god, I got so many blanks in here. I want to kind of show the difference if I can find that one. And there's nothing wrong with the old one with the tan. It looks pretty good. I was always happy with that blank. And like I don't know if I mentioned it, but Turner's Warehouse had it. I only made it really for them. They've got all the Arizona teams. Shoot, what did I do with that? Probably way on the bottom. No, that's not it. Come on. Being elusive. It's hard to find one blank among hundreds. Well, I'm going to quit messing with that. Anyway, it had tan in it, and I made a blank. I did a test with the tan, but the Diamondbacks also have this teal color. And I was like, well, let's just see what that looks like. And boy, do I like that. And like, frankly, even if you're not a Diamondbacks fan or whatever, you're not making it for for that specific purpose, I think that this color combination just rocks. So anyway, that one's available on my website now. I added it to my lineup. And so I'm going to drop a link to that right now. And actually, if you enter code, shoot, what did I do? DBAC, I think is what I did. It's on sale, 15% off for the launch. Make sure that you're signed up for the email newsletter. You get all the if I do a blank drop, I usually do a sale. And honestly, I pretty much have like a weekly sale going on. Right now, I'm trying to clear out all the team color, the square team color blanks. So pretty much almost every week, there's going to be something on sale. And the square blanks from the team colors are like heavily discounted. I'm trying to clear them out so I can move on to these round ones. But in other news, so like I said, this is available on my website, but Turner's Warehouse also just placed an order to upgrade their team color blanks for all the Arizona teams. And so we've got a Suns blank that's going to be going, and I love that. I think I nailed their colors pretty much dead on. We got Arizona State. Once again, I think I got the colors good. University of Arizona. And this one's actually going to be my Independence blank on my website. But this is their U of A. And then the Cardinals, and of course the D-backs are going to be at Turner's Warehouse. So all I have to do is make the University of Arizona blanks today for their order, and Turner's Warehouse will be having these guys in stock. I'm not sure what their current inventory levels, because they had the square versions before, but they did place an order I think they're almost out or out of the square ones. So these will be at Turner's Warehouse within probably about a week. They're just about ready to go. So I just wanted to share that, let you guys know if you do order stuff from Turner's Warehouse. Now, technically, I'll make any blank that you want, but Turner's Warehouse is going to have these. So I would say, especially for the folks that are in Arizona, if you drop in, they're going to have these guys in stock. And I tweaked a couple of them. So before we had red, black, and white for the Cardinals, and I just think this is much better. I think that, again, that's a nice looking blank. And they had all the other ones, but now they're going to be round, and I think that they're actually better. Honestly, the Suns colors are more correct. Honestly, all of them are going to be more correct than the square versions were, just because I have a lot more control over the pigmenting. So there you have it. We got some serious stuff going on here. Now, in the other news, if you didn't notice, Turner's Warehouse came out with a mandrel set for kitless pen turning, or custom pens, or bespoke pens, or whatever you want to call it. And it is really awesome. The biggest thing that I love about that set is, and I'd like to think that I had a little bit to do with this. I was talking to Chad, and I was like, if you have, I like to use tailstock support when I'm turning my sections, and I never blow them up. So what they did was they came out with a section mandrel that goes all the way through. And I'm going to show you guys, because I actually turned a section. I used that thing yesterday to give it a little bit of a shakedown run. I love it because it goes all the way through your section piece, and your tailstock can hold on to the mandrel, and it's awesome. And on top of that, that's pretty good. I mean, I think most people could probably get through turning, without that extra support. However, what I find is, depending on how you have that section mounted on your lathe, most of the time, most of these mandrels have it where the nib side, where you would put the nib in, that goes onto the mandrel. All right. And the problem with that is, so you get done turning it and sanding and polishing, and then somehow you got to flip it around and polish the front end, which is that's the money side. That's where the nib goes. And so I would always swap out mandrels and then thread it on using the 10x1, like the threads that go into the body, into a totally different mandrel. Their section mandrel has both sides, so you just flip the mandrel, and then it's so awesome. So I'm gonna do a little, not like a demonstration necessarily, but I'll show you guys that. If you don't follow what I'm explaining, I want to show you, because I really love that. And they came out with a whole set of mandrels for every size, from, I want to say, you know, for the body and cap, you know, connection. I think it's 12 all the way up to 15 millimeter. So pretty much any size that pretty much anyone makes. They've got both nibs, I think, for Bach and Yovo, for that section mandrel part. And then they also have the two different body, depending on what you're using for your body threads, if you're doing a 9 millimeter or a 10, they got everything. And they actually have a full kit if you want to go hog wild and have every mandrel you'll ever need. They got a full kit, which is what I got. I'll show you guys that. Actually, I can bring that over. And it's really nice the way that they did this. I mean, this isn't just like, hey, we made some mandrels. Like, this is sick. Like, it comes with a case, and it has all the different mandrels you ever need, and it even comes with a little like a drill chart, and it tells you what sizes you'll need for like which drills and all that kind of stuff. Now, you know, it doesn't come with all the drills and all the taps and dies. It's not like a full set that, you know, one set and you'll be able to make every, you know, kitless pen. You still need to buy the taps and dies, still need to buy the drill bits, but all your mandrels are set up in this kit. And I'm going to do the overhead. I'm just super jazzed because this thing is just, and they're nice. They're like really, really nice. Look at machining on these things. And they even have laser engraving so you can tell which mandrel, you know, is each one. It's pretty wicked. I love this set. So I got one of these guys. And like I said, we're going to head over to the lathe before we turn this, and I'm going to show you that section mandrel itself, because I think, and you can buy each one of these individually. I want to make sure you don't have to buy this whole kit if you're not going to, you know, turn 12 or 13s or 15s or, you know, whatever. You can just, or if you're not using Bach nibs or anything like that, you can do, you know, whatever you want and buy them individually, which is awesome. So I love it. I'm very excited. And like I said, it comes with this whole kit. I was just like, wow. When I opened this thing up, I was like, dang, that is nice. So we'll put that over there. Let's stop and see who's in the chat. So I feel a lot better, and it turned out I had COVID, of course. Luckily, I wasn't that bad. I know that I looked really terrible last week. In terms of sicknesses that I've had, it wasn't the worst, but then Gretchen got it, and not fun. So she's doing better today, though. So let's see here. So we got Mike McCune was here, Jennifer's here, Vinny, and David Bingham, and did I say Jennifer? Jennifer and Homer Lex. Old Man Rivers in the house. Sid's here. Awesome. Kim. Nice. Welcome. And Ann's here. Who else? 421 Rants. Let's see here. Chris Seymour. And Darren's here. Yeah, I know. I liked so Darren was saying that he's not a sports fan, but had to get a couple of them. I was like, when I first turned that sample down, I was like, whoa, this is a nice color combination. I don't know what it is. It's just all three colors just really pop out at you. And so that blank I'm calling Snake Bite. I thought that'd be kind of fun. So let's see here. Who else? Yeah, Homer likes those links are fire. I know, it's interesting. Oh, you live in Arizona, but you're a big everything Utah fan. Well, I'll have something for Penn State. I'm trying to think. I think Utah State is red and black. Is that right? Or the University of Utah is something else. I'm not sure what those colors are. Probably have blanks for them, though. Something similar. And like, for the most part, if you don't see a color combination in my shop, chances are I can make them, especially if it's like just something where, like, if you see the colors, especially if you see the colors in other blanks and you just want them to be put together. In general, for the most part, I can just easily do that. But I have so many samples of colors, like even if it's slightly off, it doesn't take me that long at this point to kind of, depending on what it is. If I don't have that color, I've never done it. I mean, it could take a week for me to match a color. So in some cases, I may not be able to match a color, or at least, you know, without, if it takes me a week to come up with a color match, it's just not worth me doing, kind of thing. You know, so, and I'm not going to charge somebody for that much work. But for the most part, I can usually tweak what I've got, because I've got a billion color combinations and samples that maybe just like I already have it, or, you know, with a little tweak, I can usually do just about anything you want, or at least pretty close, right? So if you need like a custom pour, now the minimum order is going to be 4 blanks and I'll do them vertically, but minimum order would be 4 for something that's custom. But if you need blanks and I don't have that color combo, I can probably do it. Let's see here. Vinny's waiting for his to arrive. Nice. The mandrel set, I'm guessing. I don't think you bought blanks. Harold's here, and Mike Johnson, nice. Let's see here. Yeah, the Giants blank matches Oregon State. Yep. Yeah, and that's, I mean, you know, I mean, most of these teams, they're like, oh, we're orange and black, or we're red, white, and blue. I mean, that's between the Cubs blank and the Independence blank that I have, like that matches like half the teams out there, red, white, and blue, in some way or form. So anyway, yeah, so like I said, I don't mean to like totally shill the oh, and actually I have a link if you guys want to check out the kit or any of the mandrels over at Turner's Warehouse. And it's an affiliate link. I get a little kickback if you guys use my link. And frankly, if you use that link and buy anything, I get a commission back from Turner's Warehouse, which is pretty nice. A little extra on the side. I don't mind it. So yeah, I'm going to get rid of your link, Michael. How do I remove that? I got the affiliate ones. So I think that is it. Let's go. Oh, one other quick. I got another the faux burl overpours. I got another box of those in stock. So I'm going to drop a link to that as well, if anybody's interested. Those are those little faux burls that I make. And then so you get 10 of them. Is it 10? Yeah, 10 for $10. And then you can recast them however you wish. All you got to do is drop it in a 1.5-inch PVC pipe, pour some clear, or, you know, like whatever. That's kind of why I don't make like stoppers or handles or anything out of these myself, because, you know, depending on what you're doing, you may want to put a little glitter in, or you may want to, you know, tint the resin on top. Probably you're not going to dump like a color on top of this. It kind of gets rid of the being able to see it. So most of the time you're going to go with some sort of a clear, but that's why I don't do these. And they're just my overpours, so they're like totally crazy colors. Pretty fun. And a lot of them lately are like team colors and random stuff. But anyway, so I got one of those things available on my website right now. All right, so let's turn a pen. First, I want to show you that section mandrel. Just so everybody kind of understands like what I'm talking about with some of the ease. It just, and I'll show you the old mandrel that I had actually. I think that'll really kind of clear up for anybody that doesn't really follow what I'm talking about. So my old mandrel, this was the old mandrel that I had, and it would just hang out here, right? And so you'd take your section, and again, this is the side where the nib goes in. This is the side that goes in the body. And you would mount it like this. And that's fine. That's, you know, and it worked great. What I would do is I would add like a secondary mandrel actually. This is just something that I made, but I would put this on the back side and just be able to, you don't really want to put tailstock support up on this. I did that once, and basically, because the cone, you know, you got a cone going into a flat round, and it basically just separates it. It expands this hole, and it's going to crack it. So that's not a good idea at all. So I thought, okay, let me just thread on a different mandrel that I had already, and I can, you know, I'm not worried about the back end of this thing. So I would get tailstock support. But the problem with this, and luckily I have this one, but the problem with this is you still want to, like, I like to like round over this little edge, and it'd be a whole lot nicer if it was mounted this way so you could sand this, right? So I would have to, you know, use my other mandrel, and if you didn't have one, that's where the problem is. I had a mandrel, but if all you have is this, then you got to make your own or do something. Now, the new mandrel that they've got is this one, which, I mean, I just want to show you the difference between these mandrels. Like, we're talking like serious heft, right? Totally different thing. Much nicer mandrel. And so same thing. You're going to use, and again, this is the nib side. So when you're turning this thing, turn it like that, and then you can bring your tailstock support up, and it's got a 60-degree hole in the back, and you got full support on this thing, which is great. You're going to have less possibility of this thing kind of wobbling or doing anything if you've got full support up there. But I think what's most brilliant about this mandrel is, I gotta unscrew it here. It also has the threads ready to rock, so you can just flip it immediately and then sand the front. I was like, yes. And I've known about this for months now, and I had just been waiting for this thing to come out because it's just so nice, and it's just a lot nicer than the other one that I had. Even, you know, I really didn't like having to mess around with this. This is pretty janky, honestly. I like whipped that thing together. So having a really nice solid mandrel that flips. And like I said, you can order just the section mandrels on their own. And I got to be honest, I highly recommend ordering one of these things. Regardless, you know, you may be fine with all the rest of your mandrels, but the section mandrel, I think, is extremely beneficial. And even if you already have one, this is one where I would say, why not, you know, get another one. So anyway, there's the set, put it away. Loving it, loving it. Turner's does a great job. They do some good stuff. Okay, so now I got to convert the lathe over here. Real quick, we'll get ready for turning a pen. One thing that I will note, the mandrel, if you've got this chuck, and the way that these chucks work, it's not a through hole in the back. So the one thing about this that I will mention is this ends up pretty long going in there. So you're not going to grab a whole lot if you don't want to drill out a hole. Now, I finally just gave up. I just personally, on this chuck, the chuck is great. I just don't see any advantage to having the inside solid. The argument was that you're not going to ever get water on your thread. I have never gotten water. The chuck that I used to have, the Call It chuck, was the Beal. And it's like a straight solid hole. Like there's just, it's totally open, you know, and technically like water maybe, I guess, could get through there onto your spindle. I have never had that happen. I mean, unless you're bathing the thing in water, I just don't know how that could be really possible. And so what I finally did was I just drilled this thing out. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. There's a hole in there. And you can, you know, all I did was I just mounted it on the lathe and just put a drill bit up. I would recommend using some sort of a cutting fluid to kind of keep it cool. But you can just drill out a hole. And now the problem that I had with this thing being solid, you know, having no hole in the back, I don't know. This is a pretty small hole. I only drilled out a 1/2-inch hole in there. I think the spindle hole is about 5/8 or so. The only issue that I can see is so what I was going to say is having it when it was solid, what I would get is shavings when I was drilling blanks out. I would get shavings loading up in there, and I never had that issue. I would just blow it and it would blow out through the hole, you know, in the back of the lathe. So I'm hoping that this will help clear chips out of this thing when I'm drilling, but It is very simple to just drill a hole in that chuck. Any drill bit will work pretty much. So if you want to do that, it is something that you can do, and it's not going to hurt the chuck in any way. And we had discussions about that with Stanley. I was on kind of the pre-team or whatever, the testing team with that chuck, and I brought up the concerns of not having a through hole. Like especially if you wanted to put material through and feed it out of the collet chuck. I don't know how often that's going to really happen, but having a wall in there, no hole, is kind of a downer. So, and then, Dan and everybody over there, they were like, well, you can just drill it out. It's not like it takes 2 seconds. So I finally did that. I think it's better personally for me. All right, so where's the blanks go? I lost my blanks. Totally lost the blanks. Put them in a drawer. I put them in my pocket. Who puts blanks in their pocket? Okay, so let's get going here. Let's stop talking. All right, I'm going to turn the thing on. I'm going to open up the YouTube so I can see you guys chatting. In fact, I'm going to go over and just see if there are any questions or comments. Jim's here. What's up, man? Okay, I don't see any questions or anything. That's loud. All right. So let's see what we got on this blank. I'm excited to see this thing. In fact, I'm going to cut the noise down even more by opening another gate. There we go. That's a little bit more manageable to my ears. Paul Andrews is here. Welcome to the stream. All right. I'm going to stop it real quick because I want to look at the patterning. Oh yeah. I'm digging that already. I didn't do like a full, like my normal stir stick where it's kind of bent and I twirl it and do all that. I kind of wanted to go for like streakiness, just like this. Had to go get a drink real quick here. All right. All right, Chris, have a good one. Have a great weekend. Oh, actually, one other quick announcement. We got one more opening on the Pen Blank Club now. Somebody had to bow out. So we got one opening if anybody's interested in grabbing the Pen Blank Club. I'm not sure how like if you sign up today, I believe you'll get in on, I think you'll get in on these black and gold ones. I'm pretty sure. I don't think you have to wait till next month. It's hard to tell like how, there's like cutoffs and I don't know for sure. Pretty sure you'd get in on this month's blanks, or you know, the August ones, which would include these gold and blacks. And just so everybody knows, if you are interested, the way it works, you pay up front. So you're paying like on, you know, day one for like the next month's sort of blanks. That way I know who's, you know, like how many I need to make. Otherwise it could get kind of out of hand, you know. So this is the body, you know, the body part of the blank here. It's a two-piece pen. And I like to put a little curvature on mine. Why not? We're there. Kind of smoothing things out a little bit. A little bit fat, so I'm trying to kind of smooth that out a little bit. All right, I think that's good. Turn the loud thing off. Pull out my lathe buddy. Do you remember, guys? This thing saved my bacon when I dumped dumped my water bucket all over. Totally absorbed everything. It was great. Oh, turn my volume down on my phone. Mike Johnson, does it include shipping? No, it's $5, the economy shipping on top of the price. And these are blanks that pretty, you know, like the only way to get these blanks for the most part is going to be through the Pen Blank Club. In some cases, I may end up coming out with like adding a design to my website, but I generally don't do that for a while after. And you can't just be like, oh, I really like that one that you made on the stream. Can I have it? And generally no. So it's kind of like an exclusive club. You know, mostly people that are watching. I mean, I don't know that there's a whole lot of advantage for people that don't watch the stream. Yeah, the shipping, good Lord. It's so hard to keep up with shipping costs too. They just raised that again. So I have to go in and change my shipping prices again. It just never ends. Shipping's getting ridiculous. Like my economy shipping, so I generally have like two if you go and order something on my website, there's two options. There's economy, which is basically like the ground, a ground advantage or whatever with the USPS. And then priority is the standard shipping, whatever. And so most things, the weight ends up being, if you're buying like a pen blank or two, or like the glitters, like one pigment or two, so for very small orders, the economy will kick in. But otherwise, if you order like 3 blanks, you pretty much are pushed over to the weight limit. Like the cost of the ground advantage is going to cost the same as flat rate shipping anyway, flat rate box or envelope. So, but at this point, like the $5 is not even enough to cover most of the ground advantage at this point. I'm like, good Lord. Things are expensive these days, guys. David's got a question. Do you sell your team blanks? No, I don't do bespoke length. The reason for that is I'm worried that because of the much further drop. So, I'm pouring like they're like 5 1/4 or so, 5 3/8 depth is what I'm pouring my team blanks. What I find is if I'm pouring like an 8.5 or 9-inch deep tube with the liquid pigments, there's much higher chance of bleeding. It's hard enough. The liquid pigments tend to bleed more than micas. I can get away with a lot with mica powders. They end up thickening up the resin themselves, and they don't tend to like merge together at all. But with liquid pigments, they can they're just thinner, like the pigment color chunks are smaller, which means that they can kind of blend together a little bit more. So I'm worried that if I offer bespoke length, they're going to be like the bottoms basically, because the gravity is like it splashes together basically at the bottom of the blank a lot more on a 9-inch drop compared to like 5. So I just don't really want to offer those. And generally, like they'll work together. I mean, people have been buying my square ones and making bespoke pens, for years at this point, and they look fine, even though they don't perfectly match up. But the reality is, you're going to cut the blank, and they rarely match up perfectly anyway from body to cap. Not a whole lot usually anyway. So I can try it if you wanted to make a bespoke pen. If you contact me and say, hey, I would like the Diamondbacks blank or whatever, and I want to try bespoke length. I mean, I don't have a problem trying it, but it's going to come with a big disclaimer like, it could be bleedy. I don't really want to stock those on my site, because I may end up getting a lot of phone calls and emails saying, half of this blank is all bleedy. I just don't know, and I don't really want to even test it. I know for a fact that it's going to be a lot less likely to be bleedy. And in some cases, some colors, we've talked about yellows, that yellow pigment in general across the board, doesn't even matter if it's mica powders. Typically yellows are just weak and they tend to bleed. They're see-through. And so if you've got just a very thin amount of the yellow and you've got a dark color behind it, like a little wisp of it, it tends to kind of want to bleed. So even some of the colors, pretty much most of the blanks that I've made so far of the team colors look great. Like I said, a couple areas there may be like a little tiny bit of like kind of, I don't even know if I'd call it like bleed. It just, thin parts, they kind of tend to want to merge together a little bit, especially light colors versus dark. But the only ones that are a little bit difficult, let's say, are the ones that have yellow in them. And like, for the Wolverines blank, see, I don't think I did the lengthwise sanding. I am going to come out with a Wolverines blank, but it's going to be mica gold, basically. So it's a little bit off, but I'm just going to, because otherwise I just wouldn't make it. There's just no way to pour dark blue, like blue and yellow together without getting green streaks in it. All right, so we got that. Let's see here. Like I said, though, so David, if there was something, and it may depend on what the color combination is on a bespoke length team color. If you wanted me to try, and you're willing to, the problem is if it turns out all bleedy, I mean, there's not a lot I can do. I mean, you know, for like refunds and stuff. But I could try it if you're willing to, you know, be okay with maybe a little bit of color bleed. And like I said, certain colors, like even if it kind of bleeds a little bit, it's not a big deal. It just doesn't stick out and look terrible. Other ones look terrible. And I generally kind of know. So if you had something in mind, let me know. We could give it a whirl. I'd probably just do like a 4 blank, you know, like the P-Town 4 blank bespoke length mold. And I think if they just turned out absolutely terrible, I'm sure that I could probably like discount the price, maybe like half off or something like that. If it turns out they're just absolutely, if they're absolutely garbage, we'd have to kind of talk about it. But I think they just may be a little bit more bleedy than the other ones. So I might be able to do something if they're not really to your liking. So I'm going to give this a good sanding because blacks tend to be difficult to get scratches out of, right? They show scratches. It's not like they're harder to get scratches out. It's just they show up easier. So I'm going to give this a good polishing here. I think I'm going to go up to the blue Zona paper on this one. I generally don't like going way high with the Zona papers and then going with magic juice because you're really just like doubling your effort. Like, you know, they're just two different types of sanding, or, you know, whether it's like a liquid polish or like a piece of sandpaper, you're abrading the surface. So to go like all the way to white and then drop down to number 1 magic juice is just adding more work. That you know, if you got the scratches out with the Zona paper, there's no real reason to, I don't know, you could start at a higher magic juice technically. You should be able to. So I don't like doing a lot of extra work, but sometimes it does kind of help to go up just a little bit higher if you're really trying to get it, make sure that all the little scratches and stuff are out. Maybe go like 1 step higher than you normally would with the paper. That might help out a little bit, get you a little bit better polish. Yeah, it is kind of a bummer that about the, you know, I wish that I was confident to just say, yeah, I make whatever length you want. But I mean, frankly, I don't even really like pouring mica powder blanks that are like 12 inches long, like super long bespoke. Because the tube is just so long. I don't know. I'm not super confident about that. The liquid pigments definitely are a little bit more, they're a little bit more challenging than mica powders for like swirling together, and you know, that color bleed issue is a little bit more prevalent. When you're dealing with the liquid pigments, dyes. All right, so do a little bit of this number with the gray. That's looking pretty wicked already. I don't know if you guys can see it. Like I said, the black and gold, it's simple and elegant. That's I mean, it's just the way that I think about this color combination. I don't know if you guys can kind of see. I'm going to zoom in a little bit further. We got a little bit of kind of black, mostly black on one side, but I really love just a little bit, right? You know, there's a little streaking going on, some blobs. It just, to me, you get this thing polished up and it just looks elegant to me. All right, so I'm going to get a blue Zona. Like I said, I usually only go to the gray, but this will just take it up just a little bit more. The other thing that this does is, even though this is like a higher, you know, grit, like a finer grit level, technically, by just doing a little bit more paper sanding, you're going to get a little bit more abrasion time in general. And even if you had a little bit of a deeper scratch than the gray somewhere, this can kind of help remove even a slightly deeper scratch, possibly, than just the gray would have, possibly, just in case you missed an area or something like that. But like I said, I'm not going to go up to white with the Zona papers and then do a full Magic Juice thing. All right, and then I'll do a little bit of this with the blue, and then we'll move on to Magic Juice. The juice is loose. So I guess the good news about getting COVID right now is I pretty much should be inoculated and probably won't be getting COVID when I go to SWAT, like even if I'm exposed to it. So that's good. Hopefully that holds true anyway. I don't know. Both Gretchen and I. Thought I was getting better. So Saturday I didn't really, you know, I didn't feel that good, but we made it through the stream. I just couldn't really talk very well. But by the next day, I was like, I should be feeling better, but I didn't. I felt kind of almost worse. And I ended up caving in and going to the doctor just because I was worried. My throat was hurting so bad. It would keep me up at night. And they were like, do you want to do the tests? And I'm like, well, I didn't come down here to not know what's wrong with me. So yes, test me. And it's pretty amazing, actually. That I don't know if you guys knew that. I didn't know this. I went to the, you know, like a urgent care thing, whatever, on Sunday. And they did a strep throat test, which is like they swab the back of your throat. And then they also did the COVID test, the swab the nose, which I can't, oh my God, I'm terrible at that. It just makes, it tickles, and oh, it's like torture, for me anyway. But they, excuse me, they can do like that same COVID test, and it'll actually, the results, the test checks for COVID, flu, RSV, and like one or two other virus things, which I thought was pretty neat. I'm like, yeah, tell me what's wrong. And they're like, yep, you got COVID. I was like, ugh. That's great. When they told me the results, I actually wasn't very surprised. It was pretty typical. Had COVID before. And it kind of went about the same way this time as the previous times. The biggest thing is I would get like just super exhausted. Like after the stream that I did on Saturday, I was just wiped. And I came into work and did some stuff a couple of the days that I was sick before that, and I'd work for like an hour, and I was just like, oh man, I can barely stand up. Got myself a brand new Magic Juice set. And I gotta be honest, guys, I almost feel like it's working better. Like the number 2 isn't as sticky. I don't know. If you've had the same magic juice bottles for a long time and they're kind of seem like they're dried out, and if you're noticing that maybe you're not getting as good of a polish as you used to do, you might just go grab another set. Because this new set is just, I don't know what the deal is. It just seems like I'm getting better results with it. Maybe I'm just sanding better. I don't know. Did I move away from blue shop towels? Nope, that's what I'm using. Maybe the color doesn't look right. But that's what these are. Oh, is that way zoomed in? Maybe I should zoom out a little bit. Yeah, I use these. I only use the blue ones for polishing. For just wiping off the blank in between the Zona papers, I just use normal paper towels. My theory is the white, like what I don't know is like what is the grit level? Because I know paper towels have some abrasion. They're abrasive, you know. They could be classified as some grit level. My theory is they're like a higher grit, like a finer grit level than the Zona papers generally, especially like gray, up to gray. And you might have noticed one thing that I am doing a little bit more consciously is when I again, because I don't know if these white paper towels could be putting scratches in. One thing that you can do, instead of like having the lathe running fast and like wiping off with a paper towel, you can just like mop it. Like that's not going to really scratch your blank, right? Or even maybe going like lengthwise instead of having the thing running. You can definitely see radial scratches, the ones that go around the blank. Those things just pop out. They stick out like a sore thumb. But lengthwise, not as much, right? They just don't tend to like just pop out at you. So that is one thing that I've been kind of playing with. I don't know, looking at, can I get a little bit, some fewer scratches? I'm just always kind of worried that you're doing all these polishes and then you're like scratching it with some other thing somehow. I don't know. Now even these blue towels technically are, they're somewhat abrasive. I don't know. There's no way for me to know exactly what's going on with this stuff. It's very difficult. I guess if I got like super high powered like magnifying lenses, did a bunch of tests and stuff, like polished something up to like perfection and then just sat there, with the lathe running and see if you can add scratches, like that would probably be a really smart test to do. I just kind of haven't really felt like doing that kind of testing. It's just not very sexy testing. I think once you get the polish on a paper towel, I'm guessing that might help out with some of that abrasiveness. I don't know, doing this final wipe with a totally dry, even blue towel, that may actually put some scratches in. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't get these things absolutely perfect, like 0 scratches. What I like about Magic Juice is it hides them. So I don't really feel like I need to get it, 100% absolutely flawless, because it's still going to be very glossy the way that the Magic Juice works. Like one of, if not all of the steps has like a, I forget what we've kind of mentioned this before. There's some product that kind of like drops into any little scratch marks. And this is something that you can find in the automotive polish. I learned about this. Some automotive polishes have this, and I can't remember what it's, oh, you know what? The other thing that I've been doing is using a very small scrap of microfiber for the final step. I forgot about that. Kind of crusty. I don't know if that's helpful or not. I'm going to do that again. Again, these things, you know, if this for some reason somehow got caught up on the lathe, it's not going to rip. So be careful if you're doing something like this. But I don't really think that I'm going to get injured even if this somehow did get caught up. I think it's just going to fling it off being so small. Like if I had a huge microfiber towel, I would not feel particularly comfortable with that. Because if it did wrap up and it grabbed your hand, like you're going to be in the emergency room kind of thing. But anyway, yeah, so I don't know which step, one of the steps or a couple of them or all of them, you've got like a product that kind of tends to fill into any scratch marks. And then what that does is it gives you, it basically hides those scratches. The light can still bounce out of that because there's some stuff left in there filling that gap. Otherwise, if you got a bunch of scratches on it, it dulls it because the light is bouncing off in a different direction than directly back. That's why you need like a totally perfect surface, and any scratch marks need to be smaller than a photon, literally, so that it'll just bounce directly back at you. It gets really technical if you really dive into this stuff. But, oh, that's looking pretty good. I'm liking it. All right, let's pull this thing off. Let's take a peek at it. Yeah, that's looking good. I like that. Pretty dark, so it's kind of, but look at how much gloss is going on. Boing. That's what it's saying to me. Boing. And there's like areas where the gold kind of is hidden, and depending on how the light hits it, it kind of pops out down there. I like that. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. All right, and then I usually just to clean up, look at that nastiness. Got some polish down on the bottom there. We don't want that when we assemble it, right? Might squish out, then you got to wipe it off again. Blech. No, thank you. All right, and then we got our cap part. Did you guys see last week's Turner's Warehouse stream? Chad ran into a problem. He was drilling out a blank and trying to put threads on, and the centers weren't aligned, which means that when you're drilling out, if you got like a 1/2 inch drill bit, it's bigger than a 1/2 inch is what's happening, because this thing's going around, but it's offset. So he wasn't getting the right, things weren't set up right. And so he had to go through and figure out what was going on. And it was pretty cool. He made the adjustment. He figured out what the problem was, went through it systematically. I highly recommend, even if you aren't particularly interested in bespoke pen making or any of that stuff, go back to last week's. I'm actually going to go grab a link to this because I really think anybody that's got a lathe should watch this. And it's at the back end of the stream, like at the end of the stream. So like I said, if you have no interest in watching what he's making, that's fine. But try to skip ahead and find where he was about to do the threading on, what the heck is going on here? On the piece that he was making, and follow along with that process, because if you got a lathe, let's see, oh, that's not the right one. Where's the lives? You got a lathe, this may happen. basically, like to you. And especially if you're having issues where you're like, well, I drilled this, but it's not working and I'm not getting threads correct. I'm going to try and see if I can find the timestamp when this was all.
Just starting the slide, right? Got plenty of slide. Back up. Kind of break the. I see.
Okay. I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna I can get a link to the part where, let's see, start at, so it's 55 minutes in or so. So this link is linked up to that point. If you want to watch the whole thing, go and, just, start from the beginning. It was a good video for if you're getting into bespoke pen making. Highly recommend watching the whole thing, but definitely if you're interested in like, what do you do if your centers don't line up? He goes through like this whole process. So that starts at where he was like tapping threads into the cap, I think it was. And then he's noticing that there's not really any threads there. Like something's wrong. And it was pretty cool. Like within about, it probably only took him like 10 minutes at the most to kind of go through and like figure out what the problem was. And there was a setup issue with the lathe. He had to make an adjustment. And there was a lot of like discussion about it too, from like the whole chat and everything. So it's a really good thing to kind of, go and watch, make sure that the chat is working. You have to wait. Actually, it should be fine by now. One thing for everybody that you might not know, if you go back, so like, my live streams, and I'm going to switch views just to make you guys not sit there and stare at a blank that's not doing anything. When my live is over today, you don't actually get to see the chat immediately, and it probably takes like at least like 24 hours. And it has to do with like YouTube processing stuff, I think. But I keep the chats on. Like if you wait like 2 days or 3 days, and then you go back and watch my live stream replays, then you can actually see the live chat discussion as well. So just to let you know, if you're watching something and like it's like the next day after they did a live stream, a lot of times you're probably not going to be able to actually see the live chat. But it's just because of YouTube processing or something like that. Marquetta's here. Let's see here. I'm just scrolling down. You tuned in at the reveal. Yeah. So that's the body part. And then we'll, yeah, Chad does a really good job. I know, check your label. I know. Mine, I got to be honest, I need to go in and mess with mine. My biggest problem, and I mentioned this in the chat when this all was going on, if your lathe isn't level, like that's going to throw off your centers. And so my problem is our shop, there is not one patch of concrete that would hold my lathe that is flat. Like it's all messed up in here. I don't know I don't know what's going on, but we really have to go through and, level, like really level all of our machines, because the concrete's just off. Like literally we're talking like a 1/4 inch off. And so I have to go through and do all the leveling and all that stuff first. And if that's not right, my centers are going to be off one way or the other. And so that's one thing that can happen. But otherwise, things may just be off. Your headstock could be, not like in line, basically. So there's like off sideways. Your tailstock could be off and your headstock, technically. Typically, your tailstock's not going to be that weird, but the headstocks a lot of times can be. So you may have to kind of play with the side to side, but there's also up and down. And so it was pretty neat. Like I said, I'm not going to spoil it. I think you should go watch that because Chad did a really good job kind of going through and figuring out what the problem was with his. because it's a new lathe that he just set up and he hadn't really checked it. He'd done bowl turning, but that you're not worried about. There's no tailstock support, right? Like nothing. It doesn't matter if your headstock's off, not dead aligned on the bed if you're turning a bowl. It has nothing to do with anything. So it's kind of a crazy deal. But like I was saying, my centers are like, I'm pretty sure they're slightly off. I need to someday kind of go in, and I have a feeling, because I've moved my lathe around. I got like the rolling, whatever, what do you call that? Like a mobile base thing. And I think I moved it. I set it up fine, and then I moved it like an inch, and it threw everything off. Of course, because our concrete is not flat. You know what I'd love to do is just epoxy over the whole thing and level the whole thing. But we're renting, and I'm not going to waste money on that. All right, so here's the cap part. Let's get this going here. All right, so it's looking pretty good. I think I can add a little bit on that end to take off, I think. And maybe just a tiny hair over here. All right, so let's stop it and see what we got going on here. Some pretty good tool marks going on, that's for sure. I think we're pretty in line. I got a little bit of a hump on this side. I think I'm gonna take one little pass. Hopefully I cleaned up those tool marks too, for the most part. I think I'm going to do one more. All right, I think that's good. Do a little bit of sanding here. So, you know, we were talking about scratches and sanding and polishing and all that stuff. And, getting back to it, I think that the most important step is going to be the first grit, the first sanding. You have to get it smooth, and not deep scratches on it. You want to get all these there's a bunch of little tool marks going on. I don't know if you guys can see that. This thing looks I didn't do a very great job, especially on this one end. I mean, there's like ridges, right? Those have to get out. Otherwise, you're going to have junk going on with your blank. There's just it ends up leaving like scratches, because I can sand this, but if I don't get it all the way out, there's going to be basically a little scratch mark looking thing because of that little ridge. There's a little depression. So the most important step, I think, is going to be your first grit, to get all those tool marks out, get everything dead smooth. That's where like the money is. So if you're going to do anything, spend more time, on that like first step. And I think that, if you're going to, like, I don't really like stop it and get all up close and get a microscope out. And, I don't do a whole lot of inspecting between grits. But if there's going to be one point where I think it's worth totally drying the thing off and like really getting up there close and looking at it, maybe getting some magnifying lenses, it's after your first step. Make sure that first step is good to go. And then at that point, I mean, there's just not that much involved. You're really just kind of, as long as you're not taking like a huge skip between grits, just going boom, boom, boom through your grits, like it doesn't really take that long, for like an 800 grit paper to get 600 grit scratches out. It's not going to take you that long to get that, process, get done with that process to remove the previous grit scratches. If you want to get super technical and crazy about it, you can inspect between every stage. And that's not a bad thing to do, especially if you're kind of a beginner, or I don't know, let's say you're just like, I don't know, I keep ending up with scratches for some reason. It just doesn't seem like I can get them out. Then it's, then that's a good point to, like, between every grit, pull out the magnifying lenses and take a peek at what's really going on between each step. See if there's some point or something that's going on that is causing, scratches to be left at the end. You'll probably want to get like a really good, like, raking light, they call it, like a pretty strong, like, point beam type light behind, and let the light rays bounce into your, into your eyeballs off the blank. That'll really give you, a good understanding. You'll be able to see it. I'd probably, unless you have like 20/20 perfect vision up close, even think about getting like, the little magnifying lens things, just to kind of take a peek at it. But I caution you, because it can become super frustrating, and like, I don't know, you can end up spinning your wheels doing that. If you do that for every single pen, it's frustrating. You're not moving on, and it's almost impossible to get every little scratch out of every single blank. I think you're just going to find it a frustrating thing. But if you're getting like serious issues somewhere, it could be useful. Like I said, I think if you're going to do a deeper inspection, I think after the first step, that's not a bad time to do it. See what's going on. Another thing that can really help is in between, so you're done like sanding, and then doing this side to side thing, right? So you do that, and then when you go to the next grit, let's say that I wipe this off and we're ready to go to the green. I'm not ready to move on from 600 yet, but after, so I've put lengthwise scratches in with the 600 paper. Then I move on to I consider this about 800, the green Zona. Then you do it with the lathe running, And then if you stop and wipe it off, dry it off completely, if you've still got scratches running lengthwise, then you didn't get all the 600 grit scratches out. So that doing two different ways, that really can help you understand, like, you know, did I do enough sanding? Did I get all of the 600 grit out? And I think the other little tip is don't like manhandle the sandpaper into the blank. Like, if you've got to push really hard to get the scratches out, then you need to drop down a grit. Like, it shouldn't take, you know, 1,000 pounds of pressure to get the scratches out. It's not, you're not doing yourself or anybody any favors by pushing really hard. Light touch should be all that you need. Let the sandpaper do the work. Don't make your hand do it. I tend to be a little bit hard. I tend to push harder than I probably should anyway. So I need to kind of rein myself in a little bit sometimes, especially when I'm kind of, sanding's like boring, right? So you kind of get to the point where you're like not barely paying attention. And sometimes I have to kind of catch myself and ease off the pressure. And you definitely don't want to be pushing really hard when you're doing this side-to-side thing either. Light touch, all you need for sanding. And also, don't let the paper load up in any way. Even if you're using water, constantly, you know, refresh that water on there, so that you're not loading the paper up. And if your paper starts to look like it's kind of, like there's a little discoloration already going on this piece, don't be afraid to throw away a piece of sandpaper and go get a new one. Also, I think sometimes people save their pieces of sandpaper for way too long, and what ends up happening is the grit particles, there's two things that can happen. You've run out of grit particles. The way sandpaper works, especially, I'm not 100% sure how these ones work on the Zona papers, but for normal sandpaper, it's got a bunch of little grit particles on there, right? And what they do is they fracture and expose fresh, like, sharp edges. And eventually, it's kind of fractured. If you've just worn it out, there's really not 600 grit going on anymore. Like, you've run out of little particles. So you want to, you know, you don't need to save every little. If you cut them into little small pieces, then you really don't feel that bad about throwing away a little piece and going and getting a new one. If it feels like it's not really cutting anymore, if it's not sanding, or if you stop and you can see that it's kind of seeming like it's taking forever or something weird's going on, throw the piece of paper away, go get yourself a new one. It just may solve some problems. Let's see, I haven't been watching that. Any recommendations to correct ways? WD-40 works okay if you just keep applying it. The problem is I'm not in a very humid area, so I don't need to do anything. If we're talking like rust, there's not enough humidity here to really rust things much, unless I just leave water pooled, like a cup with water under it, you know. So I can get away with not that much, but I think the easiest ways are paste wax. Any paste wax will do. Maybe kind of clean it off and, you know, whatever first. If you want something that's pretty awesome, T9 Bow Shield is excellent. It basically puts a layer over it. You know, paste wax does too, but that stuff breaks down really easy. So you have to apply it a little bit more often than other things. But that T9 Bow Shield stuff, that stuff is excellent for cast iron. I use that on my table saw. And the way it works, you just, you know, make sure everything's all cleaned up and there's no like rust or anything. If you wanted it polished or, you know, whatever, get the surface prepped. And then there's a couple different ways. You can spray it on and kind of wipe it off, like leave it there for like 10 minutes or 30 minutes. I forget what the instructions say. And then just kind of wipe it off and then let it dry. Or you can spray like a pretty good coat on, or like kind of wipe it in, leave like a coating of it on like overnight and then wipe off. It'll kind of sort of harden a little bit, or, you know, set up, let's say, sort of. Not exactly the same thing as like epoxy resin or something, but it's just not like liquid, let's say. And then come in the next day and then you like wipe it all the excess off. That stuff is excellent if you're having issues. I don't really think it's necessary though. And it's not particularly cheap either. But I've been using that stuff on all my cast iron in my, you know, all of the machines for 20 years. Works pretty good. Yeah, use sandpaper as if somebody else is buying it. It's true. Oh, Michael McEwen uses the Bow Shield. Yeah, that stuff is great. There's also another one. The Wood Whisperer did something. He had I was watching that. It wasn't that long, a few years ago, I guess, at this point. He tried some other new product that came out, and it worked pretty good, if I remember correctly. To be honest, I don't know what it was. I've kind of gotten to the point with the lathe, with the table saw. That can get some junk on it and stuff. So I usually use the T9 on that. I don't really T9 my lathe anymore. I just put a little paste wax on if your tailstock, you know, isn't sliding as smooth as it used to. But I got to be honest, guys. At this point, because I got into the bespoke stuff, and I use WD-40 for cutting, you know, as like the cutting fluid, I just spray on some WD-40 and move on, because it like adds a little bit of lubricity, gets the tailstock sliding a little bit better again in the banjo, and it's getting rid of water. I mean, that's what WD-40, water displacement 40, you know, that's what it does. So it'll help with water issues, and it also helps with sliding, cleans it up a little bit. So that's kind of what I do with the lathe now. But like I said, I don't really have like rust issues here. So I'm not sure if that's enough in some parts where you got extreme humidities. All right, Jennifer. Get some sleep. Yes, sleep is important. Oh yeah, that corrosion inhibitor stuff for the long term. Yeah, I think if I was in an area where like rust and that, you know, that was like a real problem, I would probably, yeah, I like that idea. Just hit it with WD-40 like after every use and just leave it there. That's probably like the way to go. Okay, I probably did a little bit more sanding than I really needed to there, but we were talking, having fun. All right, so again, I'm just going to kind of dab this a little bit. rather than, no, it's just not coming off. Yeah, I mean, that's making like a scratchy sound. Could you guys hear that? I don't know. Curious. Like I said, I'd like to know if I can figure out like what like grit level paper towels are. I don't know how you would figure that out exactly, other than doing that kind of the testing that I was talking about. Like sand it up to a certain grit level and then turn the lathe on and smack it with the, I gotta move this thing, with the paper towel, like rub the paper towel on it, see what happens. I might have to do that sometime, just to satisfy my own curiosity. All right, so we're gonna turn up the lathe a little bit. Start with our step 1 magic juice. Okay. And then step 2. Step 6 magic juice, the same as ring bling. I don't know if it's the same thing, but it operates the same. Like you could get, if you wanted to go through there, like you don't need to order, you know, all six magic juices. I think that the ring bling would serve the same purpose, let's say. I don't know what it is, but you know, like what the ingredients are or anything, but it operates the same way. I think Chad, I mean, the reason they have, you know, why they came out with that ring bling in the first place is I think that's what they do at Turner's Warehouse for the rings. They go through the all however many steps. I don't even know how many there are. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All 6 steps of the Zona paper, and then they hit it with ring bling at the end. And I was like, well, that seems like a pretty good way to go for if you wanted to do pens too. And I have ring bling too. I use that if I do, a lot of times I'll buff my custom pens, because with the buffing, I can get it like perfect a lot of times. And they're a little bit bigger than like the kit pens. So a lot of times I'll buff, or I'll touch, you know, like if there's just like an area where I'm like, I just can't get that out and I don't want to go through every step again, I'll just hit it with a buffing wheel. But I always come back after the buffing wheels and hit it with ring bling, because it just brings out, buffing alone is not, I did, when I first tried the magic juice, we did a comparison. Because I was kind of skeptical. A bunch of people were like, oh, you got to try this magic juice out. It's so great. And I'm like, okay. I don't doubt it's going to do better than my process that I do with the buffing wheels. But it turns out it does better. Now, if I got a third buffing wheel, you could then that might change things. But white, I used to end with white diamond. And the ring bling, the magic juice, the 6 steps of magic juice, where it produced a much glossier pen. than White Diamond did alone. So I said, okay, I'm a convert. But if I do buff, then I will hit it with, and actually what I end up doing usually is hit it with 5 and 6. Or Ring Bling, but a lot of times I'll hit it with 5 and 6 for Magic Juice after buffing. Just in case. That adds more steps and, you know, things can get a little out of control then. All right, step 6. Oh, I don't want to use a paper towel. I want to use my microfiber piece. The other thing about this little microfiber piece that I have, it's actually 2 pieces of microfiber sandwiched with like a rubber thing in the middle. And so what ends up happening is with the paper towel, it tends to absorb this number, the step 6. And you don't get that absorption through this because it's not being absorbed by anything really. So I don't know if that, like I said, I just kind of started playing with this just to get rid of paper towels out of that last step, and I kind of wanted to just see how this works without, you know, without the paper towel absorbing half the polish. So microfibers technically should not scratch anything. They're not abrasive. They use them in the automotive world exclusively because they don't scratch. All right, I think we're all done here. Look at this one. Again, I'm going to take a piece of paper towel and I'm going to wipe off the ends because I've got some junk built up at the back of this. Just a little polish. It's not nothing wrong, not a big deal, but we don't want that squeezing out when we're making the pen. Look at that. That thing is, man, I need to put some sunglasses on because it is shiny and bright. All right. So real quick, I'm going to just clean off my bushings. I just blow them off. It's just got a little polish on it. Get that junk out of there. I'm going to get the other ones. Okay. Those are all clean. Can put them away. All right, so let's get this kit out. Let's see what we got here. Hoping I did a good job on the kit selection. I'm starting to run out of, I really need to stock up my kits. Because I got a lot of like certain ones at this point, but they're all kind of the same and they're not particularly exciting. I need to go on a shopping spree someday. All right, so let's go to the overhead here. Let's zoom in. I usually just put something down because half the time I've got resin and junk all over this mat. Pigments. All right, so I think how are we gonna do this? Still trying to find a better method of putting together these two-piece juniors. I didn't really keep track of how things like line up on this. I'm just going to look at this. I don't think that's the right side. I think it's more like that. I think it's probably like this. I think I'm going to go like that. I'm guessing that that's probably how it lines up. Actually, I think I did that backwards. We're going this way. Because I did the bushings wrong. How did I mess that up? Oh well. I'm gonna try this today. I'm gonna put the nib end in first. Whoa, jeez. Almost lost all my parts. Then I'm going to hammer that thing down and just kind of get it aligned. Problem is, if you keep it together and then press, like I find that I end up pressing that plastic thing out. So I'm trying to do it a little bit differently. Luckily, nothing's really aligned on this specific pen, so I'm not that worried about it, but let's see how we did here. Yeah, that's not too bad. A little bit tight in there. That looks pretty good. I like that. Okay, so that works pretty good. I think I used to do that. So not a bad way to go. Push the nib side in completely, hammer that thing down, and then you can just twist the center band part on and make sure that that's fully seated, and then line up your blank, and you'll be but don't press it. Just get it kind of set and then pull it apart. That seemed to work pretty good. I like it. I gotta look at this again. Let's see. I think that's how I want it. I think I'm just going to drop this into this little dark area in the middle. I think it's kind of cool because if it's just, the pen's just sitting there, you got these two blobs on either side. And I kind of like that look. Let's get that kind of lined up there. Clip moved on me. There we go. There we go. Hammer that down. Yeah, that's looking good. And then I don't really care about the back end of this thing. I don't worry about any alignment with the cap. I don't know. Does anybody do that? Do you guys like do any alignments with a postable cap? I just figure if you're posting it, you're probably not looking at the pen in the first place because you're using it. So I just don't worry about the bottom part there. All right, now, most important thing, you guys know what it is, right? You got to put a little wax on those threads so it doesn't squeak at you. It's so annoying. Oh, it's the worst. Nobody likes squeaky threads. So I'm just going to grab, I got this little, I don't know, you could use like a Q-tip or something. I got this little thing. And I'm just going to, I kind of got a little out of control there. So I'm just going to kind of paint some of this wax onto these threads. A little bit goes a long way. You just need to get it kind of on there. And then run it through. Make that nice and silent. And then I'm going to put some on the inside of this side. Otherwise it goes and it's terrible. If I just bought a brand new pen, I would not want it to sound like that. Okay, and you can use any like paste wax, or, I mean, literally, I've literally rubbed a candle, like the threads with a candle. And so anything that you want to put on there is fine. Not a big deal. Oh yeah. So what do you guys think of that? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's stupid simple. Black and gold. Like, there's really not a lot going on. But it just makes like a simple, elegant pen. Like, I would be like, yeah, that's my pen. You know, like, it makes you feel good. It looks like a fancy, rich pen. But there's not like a lot going on. It's one of the easiest things to make. And looks great. Now, like I said, the only issue is if you're going with black, you really want to make sure you put in the time and get it like well polished. Otherwise, it can look dull and not so great. But this is definitely like, I don't think that this would look as good in like a matte. I don't know. I haven't tried it, I guess. But to me, this like is just screaming for, you know, make me glossy. So let's see if we can get this thing to show you details. I don't think it will show you detail. What if we zoom way in? There you go. Kind of see the details of those doohickeys. That's not where the center band is. This is where the center band is. Get in the center. Get in the center. Just does not want to do it. Really disappointing because this is like the expensive camera too. There we go. Anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think about black and gold? Was that cool? Was it something like, I don't know, did you never think about doing black and gold? Have you not seen that? Have you seen a lot of those? You're like, yeah, I know. They look great. Yeah, I guess you could use silicone grease. My only problem with that is, you could. That stuff's kind of messy. Messier, I feel, than like, paste wax is like a little bit more rigid. And that's why I like it. It seems to just kind of go on and like, that's it. Like silicone grease is like liquidy. And it can kind of like come off on your fingers and stuff. That would be my only personal thing, but I think it would work for sure. I don't think I would personally want to do that. Like, I don't even really love putting it on like the custom pens because it kind of is messy to me. I do usually put it on the custom pens because like everybody does it, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. You're biased. That's true. That's true. White, yeah, white pearl with, ooh, yeah, white and black, definitely. And one of my favorite pearls, well, that's actually switched. I think one of my favorite pearls at this point, if you're doing white pearl, a really good one to get is Snow White from P-Town. I used to like claim that you had to go with the micro pearl if you were going for like mother of pearl look. It was different than most of the just white pearl mica powders out there. But it's kind of a pain to use. It's like, it's super chunky and it's hard to mix in sometimes. I would actually say, and I use the Pearl-X brand. I will say that the Shidi, this stuff from Eye Candy is very similar to the Micro Pearl. It's pretty much a Micro Pearl, but it's not as clumpy. So I would say if you're going to go for that, that's a pretty good one. But Snow White gives the same looks, I feel, as the Sheed or the Micro Pearl, and it's not clumpy whatsoever. It's like a normal mica powder. So that one's probably my favorite if you want a white pearl. Still, I don't know. There's a lot of different blacks. Like the Ninja is pretty good, but it's not as pearly as some of the other blacks, I don't think. Blacks don't tend to be as pearly anyway, I guess. But let's see, what pen kit? So it's called a Junior Anthony. It's a really good one. I'm surprised Turner's Warehouse doesn't carry these. I should talk to Chad and see if he is interested in adding these. It's a good one. I've liked it for many years. My favorites, especially like my go-tos for many years. I think my top favorite junior pen kit, and I usually just kind of stick with the juniors. There's so many options in junior that and there's I know the drill bits. I don't have to go get different bushings and do all this stuff. But I think my favorite all time is the Junior George, and specifically the silver, antique silver. Because it doesn't get fingerprints or anything. It's like a brushed silver. It's awesome. I love these things. So that's probably my favorite kit. I do really like the Duke also. That's kind of like newer. But the Junior George, the Junior Aaron, and the Junior Anthony were like my three favorite kits. If I'm making a fancy pen, it was probably going to be one of those three. And you can see like this one, it's got this kind of weird, I don't know, I like the embellishments on this. It's a unique embellishment thing, which it doesn't want to show up now, but so that one's a good one. The Aaron has like a leaf kind of thing. Do I have any Aarons? Yeah, that's one that I need to restock because I really like those. It's a very fancy looking. I guess I don't have any. That's weird. Huh. Junior Aaron. I don't know. Surprised I don't have any. Oh, nope. Huh. Well, I can't show you that because I don't have any. But that one's a good one too. But I'm going to talk to Chad and see what the deal is with the Anthony's. See if he's like, oh, I didn't know about that. A lot of times he's like, oh, I didn't even know about that one. What is the other one? The Junior Duke. Did I say that? And the Independence. That one's wicked. I love that one. There's a lot of good ones. There's so many good juniors. I'm like, I don't need to go buy some other random one. Let's see here. Kim's enjoying the magic juice. Awesome. I'm glad it's working out. Yeah, fountain pens are cool. They are, I'm not that big of a fountain pen person, really. It's cool, but I'm just kind of like, when I need to write, I just want to write. I don't want to be playing around with this pen and ink and doing all this stuff. I'm not that type of person. Like, honestly, I'm much more of like, just give me a Bic pen. Like, how does it, does it write stuff? That's kind of my main thing. I'm just that type of person. But the fountain pens are fun to, like, as long as you're like, okay, I've got time and I want to do the whole fountain pen thing, it is really cool. Like they work really well. I will say that fountain pens write much better than roller balls. I think personally, especially you get a good ink, tune the nib well, which that doesn't take that much. It's really not. You literally get a piece of. I use. I think I took it up front. I pretty much use a blue Zona paper, and all I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what I do to tune the nib, and this is pretty much what people do. You could get, if you really wanted to, you could get even fancier and do like maybe a couple grits or whatever, but all that I do, you're going to get, and all I use is just ink, but you could use water. Probably get yourself, well, this is probably not a bad backdrop, this like little spongy. You don't want something super hard necessarily, but if you're on like a super hard surface, you might just don't press as hard. But all you do to tune nibs, literally, is like grab yourself, and it's better if you have some water. Let me go find some water somewhere. I'm just gonna pour a cup of bottled this, like whatever, this stuff. I don't really want to ink it because I don't want to. I'm just gonna get the nib wet basically, and it's gonna provide some lubricant. All right, so this is just water, and all you do is literally just do some circles and just move the nib around on a very fine, like, abrasive thing. I usually just use ink if I'm doing a pen for myself. Ink, because it's got water in it. And you just move around and make sure that there's no like scratchy points on the nib. And it doesn't really take that much. A lot of times, before I even tune it, I'm going to actually try writing with it first. Because sometimes they, like out of the box, the nib may be fine, But if there's any little scratchy points, depending on, and it helps to kind of do lots of different letters where you're moving the nib in different directions and stuff. You even just do up and downs and whatever, write or, try it out. See if there's anything that feels like kind of scratchy. But in general, this is what people tune. This is how they tune nibs, like professionals. Like that's pretty much all they're doing. Now, in some cases, your tines may need to be slightly adjusted if they're like kind of weird. Sometimes they could be kind of bent in on each other, and there's a couple other things. But for the most part, most nibs are fine, and all you got to do is just do a little bit of this type of tuning, and you're golden. A funny story, like I don't even know what I'm doing necessarily. Like I'm not like an expert with fountain pens whatsoever. I've learned a little bit, talked to some people that know more than me, but generally I'm just a dude. Like I'm much smarter at making the pens than like tuning them or anything or knowing about fountain pens. But I made a fountain pen for my brother-in-law who wanted to give it to his boss as a gift. And it turns out this guy like actually was like a big fountain pen guy. And I'm like, oh, I hope he likes it. But he went from like, he gave it to his boss, and supposedly this guy loves the pen that I made him so much because it writes so well. And I'm like, literally all I did was just kind of basic tune. I didn't even ink it up and try it out or anything. I just kind of did a quick little basic tune on it, and he loves it. And so it just goes to show you, like, I don't know what that guy, what pens he has in his collection or whatever, but he's like a collector kind of thing, I think. Maybe not like the biggest collector on the planet, but like he's into fountain pens. And I'm kind of curious to know, like, what pens does this guy have where, my just Yovo nib number 6 that I just kind of did a little scratchy tune up on, where, how does mine compare to like what he's already got? Because I wouldn't even be surprised if he's got like expensive, like the Visconti or, whatever, pens or something like that. And like, it just goes to show you can, with a little tiny bit of tuning, now you can probably tune a Visconti or whatever, they're all just nibs. So you could probably, I could probably make his other pens even better, possibly, but anyway. Yeah, unfortunately they don't have the Junior Anthony kit. So, yeah, I guess maybe Exotic Blinks has it. That's cool. So anyway, guys, I enjoyed doing this. This was a good one. So like I said, the Pen Blank Club folks, you'll be getting black and gold blanks in your box this month. Those will be going out on the 15th or so of August. And there's one spot open, again, if you want to get in on the Pen Blank Club. I'll drop another link real quick to that. And I'm pretty sure that you will be in on this month. I always get confused about because you pay it in advance, but I think as long as you pay by like the 10th of the month, I think that you're in on that month. Like you would start in August. So I'm pretty sure you would get the black and gold, and then next week we'll make another blank. I have a couple ideas that I saw some ideas on the Instagram, and I want to do it, and it's blingy. So anyway, we'll think about that for next week. But we'll make another blank, and that'll be the 2 for this month. But it should be pretty fun. Oh, maybe I should push enter so that you can go to that link. So like I said, one more available. One of them opened up. One person had to bail out. There are also faux burls, like the faux burl pack. Man, my throat is starting to get dry. There's one of those available, the little faux burls, the overpours. You get 10 of them for $10, and then you just cast it in 1.5 inch PVC. And the last thing is the snake bite blanks, brand new blank that I released on my way. Oh, I gotta move that thing up. Oh, it's not, it's under team colors. That's why. So we'll drop a link to the snake bite blanks, and I'm going to show you guys, just for anybody that didn't see earlier, what I'm talking about. It is the Arizona Diamondbacks colors, and even if that's not your thing or you don't care about them, I love this blank. The color combo is just wicked on this. I really like this one. So it's called Snake Bite. And I'm digging it. I think it's a winner, guys. Even if you are not a baseball fan or do not care one bit about the Diamondbacks like I don't, it's still a good looking blank. I might make a kit list out of that and use the new Turner's Warehouse mandrels sometime. That'd be kind of fun. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys joining the fun. Don't forget the new mandrels are out on the Turner's website, Turner's Warehouse website. I got a link in the description if you didn't see the one before. Excellent mandrels if you are getting into custom pens. I highly recommend going with those ones. They are by far the best mandrels I've seen. And like I said, even if you already have mandrels, I would highly recommend looking into the section mandrel only, because you can buy them individually, not just that big set. I think that is a game changer, and everybody should have one in their toolbox. So anyway, guys, I think that's about it. So again, thanks for joining the fun tonight, and we will see you guys next week. We'll make some pen blanks. Have a great weekend.